Now, I haven't done a lot on The Voice lately, basically because the debate is so lowbrow and toxic. On one side, you've got the Yes case pushing for the constitutional recognition that Indigenous Australia has asked for, but with pretty ordinary advocacy hampered by their reluctance to detail exactly how they'd implement it. And on the No side, we just get relentless fearmongering. They say they support a legislated voice, so they apparently agree that Indigenous people should be able to have a say on laws and policies directed at them, but they oppose it being in the Constitution. So all they do is run hysterical scares about how it will change everything, even though all it can do is offer advice, which any government can ignore, and even though the Parliament would be able to reform or reshape the body any way it likes. And the hard-heartedness, for want of a better word, of the No campaign has been revealed by some of the ideas that one of its committee members, the former Keating Labor Government Minister Gary Johns, has published in the past. In his book, The Burden of Culture, Johns, to be fair, raises some good points and some courageous ideas, but he also shows a deep resentment towards Indigenous initiatives. He rails against Welcome to Country, for instance, and any special programs or categories for Indigenous people, and controversially calls for proof of indigeneity. At the moment, we use a three-part test. It's well understood by governments and other authorities. You're Indigenous if you're descended from other Indigenous people, you identify as Indigenous, and you're accepted by an Indigenous community. But Johns wants more. It is possible to test Aboriginal lineage, writes Johns. If the current three-part test on Aboriginality is to remain, then just as Aborigines insist in native title claims, blood will have to be measured for all benefits and jobs. Now, this is pretty odious stuff, completely unnecessary and underpinned by some sort of resentment, as if being Aboriginal is a rort. I mean, it really downplays the disadvantage that most Australians are keen to overcome in this country. And this talk of blood tests, it harks back to the old official racism in this country, the references to full bloods and half castes and quarter castes. I thought we'd gone beyond that sort of attitude, that focus on race. I keep saying this is not about race. This is about Indigenous Australians, recognising them in a practical way, supporting their aspirations and hopefully delivering permanent reconciliation in this country. All this talk of race and division from the No side is, well, it's racially divisive. Here's Gary Johns in the previous hour with Andrew Bolt.
Now, how do you measure dissent in a culture that doesn't have a written record? Often you have to prove it by blood or now a DNA test. So if you want to have a race-based system whereby you get benefits because of your ancestry, then at some stage you have to measure.
Now, I've interviewed Gary Johns in the past and have some respect for him, but his hard attitudes on this topic are pretty revealing and disturbing. There are no tricks in the voice idea. No one is getting a free lunch and no one is losing anything. There's nothing to be resentful about. It's about having a country where a typical Indigenous baby is born into pretty much the same hopes and dreams as a typical non-Indigenous kid. That's why the No case should put their scare campaigns away and deal a little more in the facts. I mean, the idea that heritage laws in WA or the push to shift Australia Day or push for a treaty are a taste of things to come with the voice just don't make any sense. They're all happening now without a voice. A voice is a way to get better grassroots representatives and smarter debates and ideas, hopefully, not the opposite. The status quo has been a disaster. Surely everyone can see that. And that's why the Yes case needs to get its act together and explain their case in stronger, clearer terms.